When I do videos and include links to Wikipedia, I usually include links outside of Wikipedia, and I will try to do so. But the problem with this is the best way to demonstrate how much poppycock you're about to hear is to look at the Wikipedia pages. What I tell people is I link to Wikipedia mostly because I make fun of them, and also because I tell you, on the day I did this, you can look at the history of the page and look at the links, and don't pay attention to the article, but the article is usually right. This is the polar opposite of it. Looking up specific versions of the assertion that people can have blue skin or green skin results in you finding Wikipedia pages that nobody on Wikipedia can with a straight face say they're leaving up for any other reason other than to have fun. So I'm gonna not waste some people's time here. The Green Children of Woolpit is a mythological story, probably continually repeated by the people in the area for benefit of the population. They have a sign going into the area paying homage to the story. It's a very important thing to the local economy, I'm sure. But this is the actual story of what happened. The original story, if you take it apart and remove the parts that make it more interesting so you'd want to visit the area, 2 anemic children came to town from somewhere and had an odd story of how they got there. And one of them died from anemia, and the other one got better and lived a long life. There's nothing odd about the story. They had anemia, except for one thing. Instead of asserting that they had yellowish skin, which is actually a pretty common thing with anemia or jaundice or other conditions, and even the medical word or the botanical word for yellowing of green leaves is used in this article inappropriately and ironically. Instead of saying they had yellow skin, it has to be green. Now I have to tell you that depending on how your visual system works and how your eyes, the cells in it, are sensitive to red, green, and blue, you may have eyes that do this, and a lot of people do. But if you're exposed to a light source that lacks red, but it still has green and blue, you will interpret yellow as green. That's the only explanation I can make for a reasonable explanation. Here's the unreasonable one. This is poppycock. It was a story made up because it was a fun story. Instead of saying 2 really sick kids showed up in town, they were really pale and yellow looking, we took care of them, one of them died, and the other one got better and lived a long life, and that's it. That is an extremely boring story. Nobody would repeat it. It's like repeating the story of the origin for the first medical condition to ever exist that was able to be diagnosed by its cause and found out to be scabies. When you look that up, you find out people have to turn that into a story about mysterious fibers and aliens. Yeah, that one. I'm not even going to say the name of it. The point I'm making here is a normal thing that can happen, or even something as beneficial as the first story of an actual medical condition diagnosed correctly to find a cause, has to be perverted by people who are contrarian. Now let's talk about the story really quickly. Here's a telling by Duncan Lunan, a modern storyteller and sci-fi author, asserting that one of the children of Woolpit married Richard Barr. And it's in the notes. Warning, when you see notes on a Wikipedia page, a lot of the time that's done because notes don't have to have citations. There's no basis for this false connection of the person marrying Richard Barr, and there's no reference anywhere else except for Duncan Lunan making the assertion. Why did he make it? Because he was selling a book. This is a self-insert of his own work. Why would Wikipedia allow this? Because all of these pages lack any validity in history. The article on green anemia or green sickness references a statement by Shakespeare, which is obviously a euphemism for being jealous. Medical literature that was cited about people being green was specifying women, specifically virgins, and how to cure it was for them to have wanton sex. No, I'm not making that up. That is literally what it came from, and I'll have a link to that one. Oh my God. The article acknowledges that that is literally the basis for these assertions and for the diagnosis of what's wrong with you. See also hysteria and the treatments that doctors would do in the past, and the origin story for the personal massager being a medical device. No, I'm not kidding. The medical industry and woo peddlers and snake oil salesmen sometimes outed themselves this way. I mean, reading this stuff will make you think, okay, I'm pretty sure this is horse crap. But that's the diagnosis for green skin in grown women, I hope. The reasoning behind this is really simple. These don't exist. This is one of the few times I'll say this. The Wikipedia articles are, in this case, almost all of them, are examples of why people make fun of Wikipedia. All of the citations lead to non-existent pages that never existed, including a couple of links to pages that violate the rules of how they make their pages up, so it was never real in the first place. Citing random sci-fi novels. No, I'm not kidding. This is why I tell people to double-check the links. Saying the kids were green instead of yellow makes it an interesting story. Duncan Lunan made up shit to sell a book. Next, the assertion of blue people. There is an entire page about a family that was supposed to have blue skin because it was a genetic issue. The problem with this is they existed in the modern era after color photography, and there are no color photos of them because that would prove or disprove this. When someone goes out of their way to try to be famous for something involving some characteristic about themselves or what they've done, they can easily be photographed, but there are no actual photos. I mean, really, really poorly done colorized black and white photos. But the problem with the family is that the last blue child was born in the 70s. Meanwhile, on an article about Argyria, I can't pronounce it correctly, you can have skin turn blue if you ingest colloidal silver. People who claim that colloidal silver is medically helpful lie and say that can't happen. Well, you have to do a special way and do a hooky booky dance and bless it. The fact is that no, if you consume colloidal silver, it can turn your skin blue. Now, that's it. That's all there is to it. It will do that. This is an extremely commonly understood thing. It's actually legitimately medical history and text, and there are real photos of people. Because, yeah, and a lot of them don't want to be photographed because their skin's they're a Smurf. But in this case, people claiming, oh yes, we're a proud family and we have a genetic history of being green, but no photos, and this was an interview done by newspaper people that only posted a black and white image. Anyway, the articles are filled with things like in-jokes and wink-winks like, well, it was caused to virgins and that sort of thing for the color things. But anyway, I'll get on to it. Hypochromic anemia would mean that you have an excess or a lack, hypo or hyper, color anemia. That is not a medical diagnosis. And then the cockamamie explanation for it is actually describing iron deficiency anemia, simple anemia. And then they said hypochromic must make you green-skinned. And then they used to link to a now deleted Wikipedia article on green sickness, which again cites the reason it's caused is because you're a virgin. Or maybe you're just jealous. Green jelly. On and on and on it goes, including references to the Grinch. So anyway, if anybody's curious, I'll just get to the point here. This is a folk tale that became kind of important to a bunch of people, and they keep repeating it, and it's a good gag. Next, anybody taking it seriously needs to understand that anemia is a really serious issue medically, and was very common, and it would make people normally look kind of yellow. But, depending on the skin and the lighting, you could say the person looked green. Okay. But anyway, again, those actual stories, 2 kids were anemic. They came to a town. One of them died from medical problems. The other one got better. And the assertion of anything else beyond that point is literally just storytelling. As for literally that's it. I mean, this is so minimal. But anyway, also the Duncan Lunan 1970 report of the possible space probe orbiting around the moon, or Uranus, sent by inhabitants of a planet orbiting Epsilon Bootes, brought him international notice. Now he wants more. Hunger. I can feel it in him. Anyway, the German Work Journals, JAMA article, abstract, something dark side, actually shows you the original unedited basis for this idea of turning green being caused by being a virgin. And all the other bullshit assertions that were somehow allowed in medical texts, and all of them refer to things before the modern era of science and medicine. So yeah, this was never really a deal. But it is an interesting story, and it is the babes lost in the woods story. That's it. I do thank the person for bringing this up, but literally this is an example of not only is there not a corroboration when it would be easy to do, it isn't there. And references flying back and forth to various articles that are unrelated or missing pages is classic stacking the deck against anybody trying to look it up. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck.